Hi there. I just want to do a video, and I want to talk about in this video, I want to talk about labels. And I've just been on the internet, and I was looking up a picture for, I wanted a picture of, I typed in people being, or labeled people, I think something like that I typed in. I just wanted pictures of people that are labeled and see what come up. And then I found out other posts and internet blogs of some really crazy things. There's actually a theory that they call if you think that labeling people controls them, that's actually a conspiracy theory, which is insane. Anyone with a working brain can see that if you get told that you're something, if you get told you're a mental illness or you're labeled, if you then repeat that then, and you believe it also, then that will become your reality. And then you'll just live in this tiny perceptual prison, right? Believing that you are that. When it's like earlier on, I was watching a science video on YouTube earlier, and talking about nothingness, and this scientist and many scientists in the documentary are saying how everything is nothing, and they were showing scientifically how that is, and showing that it's just nothingness, and that nothingness is so infinite and vast and endless. And if that is the case, then labeling someone is obviously going to prevent that. And it's up to you if you want to believe that it's a system or not. I don't always have to say. I think it is. I think it's blatantly obvious that that's the case. But if you want to think it's by accident, you think it's by accident. But obviously, if you believe that you are this label that puts you in a tiny box, then you won't perceive yourself as infinity. And to me, it's obvious to me that that is the whole point. See, I had this big unexpected spiritual experience, and I didn't think like this. Before this spiritual awakening, I didn't think in the way that I think now. That I think completely different. And when you have an awakening, you start to think to yourself, well, if this is the divine self, what was the me before? And this is how I started to look at things and started to ask, how was I programmed like that? What did it? And that put me on this road of talking about the fact that people are labeled. And I started to realize now that that's pretty much what I was doing in the past. I was just repeating what I was told, really. And that's basically the Matrix. The Matrix is this world of illusion around us, and it programs us. And it's very, very hard to get out. I think the reason I got out of it and had this awakening was because I really had enough. And I think you've got to have enough to the point where that's it. It'll just manifest itself. Anyone can escape it. You can start to do it now. Just monitor how things are affecting you, and monitor your past, monitor how everything's molded your perceptions, and then you can start to almost like take off the Matrix program and start to get back to the true self, which I believe is just a meditation state. Our natural state of found for this awakening is a meditation state of peace, of love, of bliss, euphoria. But they label us. It's obvious to me that everything in this world is to stop this divinity, because I think the system is obviously terrified of people spiritually awakening. But labeling people is going to have that effect. If you label someone and they repeat it back, whatever you repeat or say, that goes into your mind, your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind manifests your reality. That's a psychological fact. And so, label it. If you repeat what you're labeled as, then, and you believe it, then that will become your reality, and this will put you in a tiny box. And then what they do is they just give you drugs. That's what the system at the top organizes everything, and everything lower down, like doctors or whoever, lower down in society all comes from the system. But the people got to realize that they are the system. That's the other thing that many people don't realize, that we are the system. The many are the system. System can't exist without us. The many can't be controlled unless they agree to it. But this is a truth that many are awakened to now, and the more that more people are realizing that everything is just labeling, the more the system's little game is just diminishing. You know, it's one thing. I'm not saying like labeling something, but it's when you label a human and then they believe in that they are that label, that then will stop them at believing that they're infinity. That's what that will do, right? And that's the idea. They want you having no perception and no idea of anything to do with infinity, which everything must, if you think of it logically, everything must come from nothing at some stage, and that's it. So how can you can't put that in a box, because it's infinite. You're infinity, right? Beyond all labels. But that's what they try. This is what they see what the system seems to have done. It seems to program a certain amount of people, and these certain amount of people like to stroke the system's back and pat them on the back, and these little slaves are doing what the system wants. What they're doing is any time someone comes out with a truth that's pretty much in your face, a truth, what these little sheepies do, they come up with these things. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory, but a conspiracy theory is what they labeled as a conspiracy theory. So the conspiracy theory belongs to these slaves. People like me didn't make it up and say, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory title, or whatever they're calling a conspiracy theory, was made up by these little sheep. And that's the little sheep that make up all these conspiracy theories, not people like me. And that's what they do, and then it gets called a conspiracy theory, when the conspiracy theory itself doesn't actually belong to people like us. It's people like the sheep that make up and decide what is a conspiracy theory and what isn't, and that's just what the system wants. But we've got to think of the future. You've got to think, if you've got kids, you've got to think of your kids. You've got to, it's my planet, so I'm going to do my best. But I'm just going to end it there. Thank you much for watching.